Hey guys, what's going on? It's Space Cowboy here. A little bit under the weather still, hence why I haven't been doing the face cam, but the show must go on. Wanted to get my thoughts out there regarding the current state of the Dallas Cowboys and what I think the expectations should be for this team as of right now. I understand that there's still a way to go before we get to the season, and I want to try and get these videos out there before training camp starts, and that's where we're going to have those conversations. So if you enjoy these types of videos, please make sure to leave a like. Doesn't take that long to do, and it greatly helps out the video on YouTube's algorithm. Subscribe if you're new here if you haven't done so already. And without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the expectations for the 2022 Dallas Cowboys. Now, I understand that last year was a year where the Cowboys kind of started to put things together and go in the right direction. It was the second year of the McCarthy era. You really felt like this team was going somewhere. Now, unfortunately, that resulted in a first-round exit, and it left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. Reasonably so. And I think what's happening now, as we get further and further away from the previous coaching staff, you're going to start seeing the true imprint on this McCarthy coaching staff, right? And I think that this is why year 3 is extremely important. The Dallas Cowboys, in my personal opinion, have to win the NFC East next year to really start building some form of consistency as a franchise in recent times. For those that don't know, the Dallas Cowboys have not won the NFC East back-to-back since 95-96. Now, to be fair, no one in the NFC East has won it back-to-back since the Eagles did it in 03-04. With all that being said, though, a wild card appearance I'll take as well. The Cowboys have not appeared in the playoffs back-to-back years since 06-07. And what that tells me is that the Cowboys have been a very inconsistent franchise, and that's a reasonable take to have. But looking at their schedule, right, and, kind of going back and forth with the roster, what I can tell you is this. The Dallas Cowboys still have a good roster. I do not want to give you a false impression that the Cowboys don't have a good roster. Yes, I might not be as high on the Cowboys as other fans might be, but when you realistically look at the Dallas Cowboys schedule and their roster, it gives you a sense of, okay, as long as you kind of get a sense of how things go, the Cowboys should be able to take care of business. Now, the division's going to be a lot tougher. I want people to understand that. All the teams, minus maybe Washington, have gotten better. Now, is it significantly to the point to where they're going to be a thorn in the side like this year? I don't know. But here's how I look at it. If we just look at the division, the Eagles are the number one threat to the Dallas Cowboys. This is no question. This really comes down to how the players they drafted continue to develop, and also how does Jalen Hurts do? Yes, they have a ton of weapons. I understand all that stuff comes into play, but we still got to figure out how that team's going to do in the next year. Jalen Hurts has another year under his belt. That team's a little bit better all around. So I don't think that the Eagles are going away anytime soon. As for the Giants and Commanders, I believe that New York is on the right path. They aren't there yet. I do expect them to be in a position better down the road, but not right now. And as for the Commanders, I think they're stuck in a rut right now until they find their next quarterback. I mean, you can argue that any of these teams don't have the long-term answer yet. I mean, we'll see how things pan out in the long run. But let's look at it this way. In the division, I think the Cowboys will go 4-2 in division play. I think that's fair. I think you'll lose 2 games just because, hey, the division's a pain in the ass sometimes. That's a fair assessment. Now, the games outside the division is something where I'm like, where can Dallas get some wins? And, how is it that they're going to carve their way to the playoffs, right? So, we start off with the home games, okay? Outside of division play, you have the Bears, the Lions, the Texans, the Colts, the Bengals, and the Buccaneers. That is 6 home games outside of division play, okay? So when you add the 3 home games to the division play, that's 9 games at home. And then you also have the 8 games that are away. So the Cowboys have been graced with more home games than away games. Out of those home games, let's just say you win 2 of them at home with division play. I think you'll beat Chicago. Okay? So I think you'll beat Chicago at home. I think you should be able to beat Detroit at home, even though that team is starting to get a little bit of tread under their tires, that, if to say the least. You should be able to beat Houston. Indy's a weird team because we don't know how things are going to pan out there, but let's just say that's an L. Okay? Then you go to Cincinnati and Tampa Bay, which let's just say we mark them as L's for the sake of just kind of looking at this at a low end of the spectrum type of situation. Okay? So if you think about it, you go 5-4 at home, worst case scenario in my eye. Best case scenario, I could see you going 7-2 at home if things bounce your way. You go to the away games, okay? So, again, let's give you 2 wins already for the division play. Let's say you lose 1 on the road. You have Green Bay on the road. Let's say that's an L. Jacksonville at Jacksonville. That's a win. Minnesota, the Cowboys have done really good in Minnesota over the past couple years, so I'm going to give them a win there because they're the Vikings. You have Tennessee on the road. I personally would mark that as a win. I think that's going to be my flip of the coin win. And you got the Rams on the road. I'm going to mark that as an L. So when you add it all together, right, that's now 5-3 on the road, and then you kind of add also the flip, okay, I can maybe see a win against Green Bay, but they've matched up very well versus Dallas over the past couple years, right? So 5-3 in my view, or 6-2 at that point in time. So if you add that up, if you add the 5-5, of course you get 10. And then, that puts you at a 10-7 record, okay? So I could see the Cowboys going 10-7. Now the question is, does 10 wins give you the East? And in my opinion, it should. It really comes down to how things progress. I think realistically, the only other team in the division that can get 10-plus wins is Philadelphia, and I don't want people to sell the Eagles short because you got to realize that team is in fact going in the right direction. It's just really, is it this year that the prospects start to pay off, And another thing is, again, I think that for the Cowboys, it's a 10-win season is the goal. You're probably looking between a 9-12 win team if things bounce their way in these games. And, the question then becomes, what happens in the long haul? Okay, if this team gets to the playoffs again and disappoints, then what do you do from there, right? Like, okay, is it time to move on from McCarthy? Well, of course, context is everything. If you have another year where you come up short and you just got punched in the mouth again, yeah, I think that then it's time to really have a conversation about, okay, Mike, what's going on here? Like, like this is something that's not making any sense for me. Okay, like, you're putting everything together, but for some reason we aren't winning playoff games. Now, keep in mind that this was McCarthy's first rodeo with the Cowboys in the playoffs, okay? And so, when you think about that, okay, and again, anything can happen in the playoffs. So, let's just keep that in mind. Now, if you kind of want to put it into this kind of light, right? You know, McCarthy's teams have had those moments where they've had embarrassing situations, but they've also had years where they've been relatively consistent, okay? And I think that, you know, what I mean by consistent, I mean like they're at least winning a playoff game at minimum. And that's something that we got to look for this year. I don't care if you win the East. I don't care if you become a 7th or 6th or 5th seed. All I care about is, do you win a playoff game at the end of the day? If you can win a playoff game or two, I think McCarthy has earned the right to retain his position. This is a weakened NFC as well. We got to keep that in mind too, ladies and gentlemen. So the Cowboys, like, in my personal view, I think the Cowboys are probably one of the top 5 to 7 teams in the conference. I would say top 5 team in the conference. I think that's fair to say. I think it would be disingenuous to say otherwise. So, with that, is this the year the Cowboys can make that push? Me personally, no, I don't see it this year. However, when you look at how the depth chart is assembled, it looks like next year you can afford to try at least. I mean, you could try now. The Cowboys have that ability too, but I think that you need to kind of get yourself ready to sign some players next year and make that push, even though the Cowboys won't do that. So I don't want to go on forever, but the point of this video was to talk about my thoughts on the Cowboys as of right now, my expectations for them, and, you know, what would be considered a failure. I don't give a damn if they go 9-8. If you don't make the playoffs, we got a problem. Mike McCarthy, in order to, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, if Mike McCarthy wants to staple himself as a better coach than Jason Garrett, it's as simple as this. If you can go to the playoffs in back-to-back years or win the division back-to-back, I think that he solidified himself as a better coach. I think he is a better coach than Jason Garrett, which that's not hard to do. But yeah, that's where we stand right there. So I thank you all for coming in and, you know, listening to my video. If you guys can give me a like, a subscription would be greatly appreciated. And I'm going to catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.